evening, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the Sports Exchange. My name is Scott Morgan, off the Motor City Mad Mouth. Great crew lined up tonight. We have our Wednesday crew. We got Jacob Christner, our pundit pal. Welcome back, Jacob.
Thank you. Welcome. Appreciate it.
And George Icor, long time no see. What, a few minutes?
Few minutes, yeah. Good to be back on, Scott.
And we got Travis Holmes, our newest versatile performer. 1 minute you see him on Inside the Picton, the next minute you see him on that Sports Exchange. Good stuff, Travis.
Doesn't matter where you see me. I'm happy to be here, and I'm hoping it's going to be a wonderful time.
And he's without bacon.
Well, you don't have to worry, Travis. We've been working together a long time. We do the very best that we can to try to keep it entertaining and real. Let me go over a couple basic things here real quick. We're going to be talking about the NBA All-Star Game. The reason why we named this episode NBA Hits New Low, all you got to do is look at that score, and that'll tell it to you. A little bit of fun with Justin Fields, talk about the Pac-12, hiring a new commissioner of the Vikings, and everybody's going to get parting shots tonight where they can pick whatever they want to talk about. So, without any further delay, I want to just let everybody know that the Sports Exchange is being broadcast around the world. The audio version of the Sports Exchange can be heard on iHeartRadio, Apple, Spotify, Google, wherever you get your podcasts. Please hit the red subscribe button on YouTube, South Florida Tribune. We're striving for more subscribers. Please also comment, like, and share the broadcast. Want to be a guest? No problem. Participate in the chat room or send your topic ideas to southfloridatribune@gmail.com. If you want to advertise cost efficiently, give me a call at 954-304-4941. I'll get to other stuff in a little while, but you can also read it at the bottom of the ticker as well. The things I would be talking about, you can read them there. So jot down phone numbers, you know where we're at. And I also have a book out there called Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders, available on Kindle and Amazon, pretty much old school media versus new school media. First topic, well, is the reason why we titled the show. The NBA hits new low, the East 211, the West 186, 397 points scored between the two teams, and only 5 free throws taken by a combined for both of these teams. All right, Travis, you're the lucky one that gets to talk about this first.
I mean, you said hits new low. I say hits new high. Either way, it's if you're going to have a video game basically a video game all-star game, why not make it into a legitimate video game scenario? Like if you want people walking out of the door thinking Harlem Globetrotters and not thinking NBA, that's basically what this was. This was NBA Jam with no defense. That's essentially what it came down to. Highest scoring all-star game in history. Damian Lillard, 39 points, 6 assists. He became the first person to win the 3-point contest and the All-Star game in the same season, but 11 of those shots were from 3, even 1 from half court. Again, that's video game numbers. This is what they want it to be. Unfortunately, I guess this is what the corporate overlords seem to want in the NBA realm, and I can't judge them because honestly the NFL and every other sport is kind of going through these same lulls with trying to figure out how to keep it exciting, how to keep it new, how to keep it good for the younger crowd. I actually enjoyed the 3-point contest between the WNBA and the NBA with Steph Curry versus Stephanie L. I figured
Sabrina Ionescu.
Yeah. Well, that's good. There you go. That was entertaining. So that probably couldn't have gone better than they would have hoped. So that was a really good situation overall. But to your point, if you're looking for defense, if you're looking for real NBA, basketball, this wasn't that. That's for sure.
Okay. Well, I didn't watch it, so I didn't have to worry about it. I haven't watched an NBA game in a long time in terms of the All-Star game, and I have zero interest in it. I'm sure I may alienate an NBA fan or two here and there. But to me, I remember when basketball, you had the real stars like the Barkleys, the Thomases, the Jordans, and the list goes on. Those are the guys we're seeing. I'm not saying that today's group of talent isn't very good. They're great athletes. They're phenomenal athletes. The only thing wrong with the NBA these days is you got load management, okay, which they have to play 65 games just to get an award, okay, which I think that number should be 70, okay, but they got off easy. But keeping on point with the All-Star game, that's just too many points, 397. And let me even take these numbers a little bit more interesting, okay? One team goes 80 for 143 in field goals for 56%. The other one is 83 for 146 or 57%. Let's talk about 3-point numbers: 25 for 71, 35%, 43% for 42 of 97. I mean, these are numbers that are unbelievable numbers. And then we're talking about assists 60 to 46, offensive rebounds. I'm not going to worry about those numbers. But when you just think of the fact that between the field goals and the 3-pointers, and then you look at the few free throws, George Eichhorn, that's a recipe for disaster in terms of, the way I really believe things are in terms of where this league has come in terms. I mean,
Wow.
I don't think anybody can get the All-Star game right these days, but the NBA seems to have gotten it worse than anybody.
No, you're absolutely right, Scott. And give me the days of long ago. I've been fortunate enough to be attending 3 or 4 All-Star games, the one here at the Pontiac Silverdome. And then, of course, I went to the one in Chicago, the one in Cleveland, and one in Indy. Not recently. I'm talking about years and years ago, like Scott said, when we covered all those other big names. This has just gotten out of hand, guys. I mean, you cannot expect America to get excited, the sporting world, about this kind of stuff, okay? That's all it was how many 3-pointers, like you said, Scott, can I put up? How many slam dunks or crazy baskets can we make? There's no defense, obviously, like that. One of the best referees was the lead referee, Tony Brothers. And like you said, I mean, those referees weren't even calling any fouls. There were no fouls to call. But I think this is a rebuke of Adam Silver, and I'll tell you why. Silver made an effort of trying to make this All-Star game a little better than the ones we've been used to, which were, again, high-scoring games the last several seasons. And he made an effort to try to get the Players Association, the players, to agree to just kind of, I don't know what the agreement was, but obviously Silver looks like he's got egg on his face because they totally ignored him. If he was trying to get the score lower, that didn't work. Trying to have more passing or whatever the gist of it was. But Silver looks bad on this. And now, you're talking about possible solutions. They talked about maybe they'll do a world versus USA format, or maybe they'll do like 3-on-3 format or 4-on-4 or some crazy ideas. I've seen some ideas floated around. But yeah, this is not working. I don't mind the other stuff. All-Star Saturday, I think that's great. The long distance shooting, slam dunk contests are still popular, but the game itself, no, this is not an attraction. It's a detraction of your product. And Adam Silver, you got to go back to the drawing board and try something different.
I wish David Stern was the commissioner. That's all I'll say.
Yeah.
Miss him a lot. All right, Jacob.
Okay, first off, let me say this about Sabrina Ionescu. I'm proud of her for one thing. She had the guts to do the 23-9 instead of telling Steph to go 22. She had the guts to do it and almost beat him. And she would have to do it considering Caitlin Clark beat the record with a 40-footer in there. So she had that thing. But here's another thing of why we're having this. There's no question. Considering the walking condom from a gas station bathroom, Adam Silver said, considering he said, I didn't like the 90s. It was too rough for me. With his low testosterone look, it was him saying all that. Considering all that, there's no question in my mind with the amount of fouls I called that are ticky-tack, with the amount of things that they're going for, and having these little contests. He wants to merge the leagues in 10 years to 15 years. He wants to put men and women together, which would be a disaster. Which would absolutely be a disaster. But this is his low testosterone way. And this is his low testosterone way. He wants to be able to get that. And there's no question. There's no question he was raised by women. All women. He can't stand being a man. He probably wants to transition somewhere. Along the line, he wants to wear a dress he'll borrow from Caleb Williams.
All right, okay, all right. Let's keep it real.
But either way, I love what I'm saying though is this was horrible, but this isn't going to be ours anymore. Our team, this isn't going to be our league anymore, unfortunately.
Okay, but where you were going was a dangerous path. Okay, and I'm just letting you know that you were going.
Okay.
The reality is, we're talking about the All-Star game. We're talking 397 points.
Oh, it's
And you
horrible.
did everything in your power, Jacob, to realize that arithmetic didn't hit your head on this number here.
But I
Let me
apologize
finish,
on
okay?
that.
Let me finish.
I think that's the reason. I think the reasoning was that's where it started. That's where I was going with those high numbers,
but
no fouls. That's why I was thinking that.
No, I know, I understand. The leagues are always, I don't care what anybody says, okay? No matter who's in charge, okay? The WNBA will always be the WNBA. The NBA will always be the NBA. And I'll tell you why I'm stopping you in your tracks on this. Because the WNBA is designed to keep those buildings busy during the off season. And the NBA does what they've got to do in many of those where they share buildings. So where you were going was a quick halt, and that's why I stopped it right there. There comes a point, Jacob, and I'm just telling you, like we always do on all our shows, that when we talk about a specific topic, I like candid talk. I really do. I think it's great that we all voice our opinions, but sometimes we have to be objective and take care of the business that's at hand. That's what we talk about. That 397 points is absurd. That's the only All-Star game I haven't been to, believe it or not. I've been to the Pro Bowl. I've been to the NHL All-Star game, been to one MLB All-Star game, but not the NBA. There was a point when the NBA All-Star game was good. When you have when you had some defense, big bodies, playmakers, you had everything. Now, what do you have? And think about what the coaches had to deal with here to watch this.
Yeah.
You didn't coach this, can you?
Well, Larry Bird was trying to tell them in the morning of that game, please try to work hard. Please try to work hard, and they didn't.
Yeah, I'm with you all the way, and I'll have some opinions about that later on. Okay. Yeah. But you're right. No question about it. So everybody spoke on this one?
Yep.
Just want to make sure. Okay. All right. Well, we'll go to Jacob's favorite neck of the woods. Okay. Justin Fields unfollows the Chicago Bears on social media. I know Travis is smiling from here all the way to the end of time, so we'll let the smiling man talk about it first.
I mean, well, he was actually on, what was it was some podcast earlier today.
It was the EQ and it was the Equiminius and Almond Rog show.
Right. Thank you. I couldn't find the name of it, but I remember watching the video earlier today, in which he was asked the question directly, "Hey, what's going on with you unfollowing the Bears?" And he basically leaned into, "Hey, I'm going on vacation mode. I don't want to see all this talk about whether or not I'm going to be on the team or whether or not they're going to be drafting Caleb, et cetera, et cetera." So I simply unfollowed the team. I unfollowed the NFL also. And while I can see that argument and maybe even on some level understand it, I also don't believe it. Like if that makes sense, because just because you're not following Chicago Bears, just because you're not following the NFL, does not mean that these subjects aren't on your timeline, especially when you are who you are. Let's be honest. Like there's way too many hundreds, if not thousands, of people that are tagging you in these conversations. You're still seeing them. So it was a great response on the spot during the middle of a podcast and everything else, and some people might even believe you, but in reality, we know it's more likely than not he wants to see how everything lands, and they've already had a lot of those conversations in-house that probably indicate that he's not going to be back with Chicago. That's my guess. But again, good professional veteran response on his part.
That's okay. You know what? I incorporated this topic in here. Number one, I know Jacob's on any show that I can put a Chicago reference on, I'm going to do it anyways. and number two, it's a fun topic, and I'll turn it over to Jacob and George in a moment. I know that he's 10-28 as a starter. I don't care. When you're considering how awful the teams that he had around him, I'm surprised it's not even worse than that. I like Justin Fields as a quarterback, and I still think they should keep him and let Caleb go somewhere else, even though I don't think that's going to happen. But I do believe it. I mean, but I like Justin Fields. I think he was just messing around with the Bears and having a good time. It was lighthearted that he could do it and get so much talk out of it, especially knowing that the draft, that many of us are going to be there in Detroit in a couple of months anyways. It's all lighthearted. I like Justin Fields. I really do. He deserves a better fate. than what he's gotten so far in Chicago. But he's going to be an excellent quarterback wherever he lands, whether he stays with Chicago or somewhere else. Period. You're all right in my book, Justin Fields. All right, now we'll turn it over to Mr. Christner.
Travis, you follow me on Twitter. You have to know what I believe on this. But here's the thing. I've got just to let you know, the next day or two, Scott, you've got another thing coming. It's about the Chicago Bears and the Fields and the Caleb Williams deal. You got another writing coming, and you've got one coming. And I'm saying this part. Part of my writing says this: the Bears do not. I'm going to have a 20-year thing in a certain amount of time, telling why the Bears do not have the infrastructure for this guy or any of the others they ever got. Why Patrick Mahomes would have been a failure in Chicago. Why all of this. Every ounce of this is based off of so many past problems. And the thing is, I don't hate Justin as a man. I don't. I think he's a great guy. I think he's a hard worker. I hate his fans. I hate his Justin Fields Swifties. I can't stand them. And they're the ones that are the delusions. They're the ones that booed Andy Dalton out of the stadium to try to get him in when he wasn't ready. All they wanted was their YouTube highlights. They didn't care about winning. So I want him gone to make them suffer. But if it's between Justin and Caleb, Justin all day. I'm just going to say that. I want no Caleb Williams there. Right. Not a chance. No way. I don't want a dress coming down the hallway, going at the Super Bowl to try to get hits. I don't want that. I know Justin's a warrior. So I know that. But if it's going to be between the fans and stuff like that, I want a free agent. And I want somebody that's going to help that team start winning now.
You know what, though? I like your word about a warrior, because that's exactly what Fields says. He is a warrior. Have to have endured what he's endured. All right, George.
Well, yeah, it is kind of weird the way he did that. Obviously, the social media unliking the Chicago Bears, kind of a weird thing. But I think he's just playing around with everybody with that. I know that he said he wants to stay. He says, of course I want to stay. I can't see myself playing in another place. But if it were up to me, I would want to stay in Chicago. I love the city. The city's lit. I don't know if that means lights. The fans, they're great. And the people, it's a business. I ain't got no control over it. Whatever happens, happens. And that's true. That's true. I mean, this is the situation, okay? You didn't give him the supporting cast he deserved nor needed. So it's not fair. It's not fair for management to blame everything on him. But there is part of me that says maybe they do have to make a break, because if there is so much bad blood and there is so much, backroom wheeling and dealing and who's going to play and who's not and what kind of game are we going to play. I mean, let's face it. He has had a tough row in the Bears at Soldier Field. I wouldn't be surprised if they've told him ahead of time they're trying to trade him, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they decide to keep him. And I'll tell you why, because there's still a lot of great football. I agree with Scott. There's a lot of great football in this young man, a lot of great talent in this young man. And he has had a treacherous last few years, obviously, as have all the Bear fans. I get it. I'd be upset, too, if I had that kind of losing way going on the last several years. But like you said, Jacob, I don't think Caleb Williams is going to be the answer. I don't really think until they get this whole thing straightened out, what they want to do. There's still some time, okay? The draft is still less than 2 months away now, or right around 2 months here in Detroit. But the bottom line is I like Justin too. As a man, I like him as a football player, and there's definitely a place for him in this league, no question about it. And he's just had to endure some really bad situations with the supporting cast in Chicago.
Travis, you've spoken on this already, haven't you?
Yes, sir.
Good. So I just want to make sure that everybody's got what they have. The reality is you think Caleb Williams can be any better than him? I don't think so. I think he's a step back. I really do. I mean, when you think about what happened at USC the last 2 years, right? Great record. Then they were above mediocre last year. Now he's going into Chicago. Really? I mean, I think the best thing that could happen for Justin Fields' sake is he goes somewhere else to get a fresh start. I don't know how much bad blood there really is, but if you really want him out of there that bad, I'm sure he's more than willing to leave. Let me tell you. And
Scott, can I add something real fast, just real quickly?
Sure.
Here's the thing. This is just a little bit of a quick thing of what you'll see on what I'm writing the other night. If people want to play the whole Mahomes, imagine Mahomes in Chicago, we'd have 6 also. They want to play that whole Madden and fantasy football idea. Here's the thing that would have made that work. Bruce Arians. I'm not saying 6 with him, but I'm saying there would have been a Super Bowl somewhere. Bruce Arians, because he was a quarterback counselor on that kind of thing.
Right.
Until the Bears learn to get real coaching with a real offense that would get something like this, all this is a pipe dream.
Well, you want to bring up Bruce Arians' name, George, and I know the name all too well, Tom Moore, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
One of the better offensive minds on the planet either. Tom Moore,
Yep.
wherever he goes, they have pretty strong offenses. So, but in the end, I like the fact that he's just toying around with social media. I don't think anybody takes him seriously.
Mm-hmm.
But thanks, Justin, for giving us a nice topic to get Jacob's goat. I like getting Jacob's goat. I really do. And there's another one that might get his goat. You got to understand, Travis, when I come up with topics with Jacob, it's a lot different with him than anybody else because I'm looking for ways to get his goat and get him talking because ever since we lost Rick Curdy, Jacob has turned out to be our new Mr. Opinion. And
I just don't do this like he did.
Well, okay. You still hold your own. All right, let's move out to the West Coast, okay? Pac-12's board of directors hired Teresa Gould as their new conference commissioner. She previously served as Pac-12 deputy commissioner and associate commissioner of the West Coast Conference. She's first commissioner of an Autonomy 5 conference, replaces George Klakoff on March 1, 2024. All right, Travis, what are your thoughts about good old Teresa?
I mean,
trying to make something out of this conference.
I mean, she seems qualified, and I mean, good on her on that piece as far as her experience and such. And she has the familiar. She's familiar with the teams remaining in the conference. But if I can just be honest with you, this stinks from high heavens, though. Overall, like not her hiring specifically, just the fact that it just feels like she's being hired to try to salvage a sinking ship. I mean, there's 2 teams. It's a conference. It's a conference of 2 teams. It is. It's a rowboat with no boat. I don't even know how to establish that. Like
without an oar.
Yeah, I guess maybe without any oars. It's wild in that way. So I'm like, it feels like when you were any said number of minorities in any year that's hired to take on this job that is just terrible, and they're probably in this position where this is a one, they're going to be there for 1 year, they're going to be fired the next year. Like let's say the Carolina Panthers or the Houston Texans or fill in the blank. Like this is just one of those situations where I don't know how you salvage that from her perspective. And again, she seems qualified, so that's not putting a mirror on her. It's just kind of one of those jobs where good luck. Because man, I don't know how you bring that back, and hopefully they, something happens with that whole, those negotiations that they were trying to have with the, Mountain West or something along those lines. But I just don't know how you bring that back from 2 teams to a legitimate conference over the next, 5-10 years.
Well, they've got about 2 years to get it right to begin with, so I don't know where they're going to get those teams. And I'm sure one of these days we'll probably talk about it either here or on Inside the Pigskin where you're at anyways, where you rotate back and forth, Travis. But I look at it, the opportunity for her is she's on house money, okay? This thing is at the bottom. It can't get any worse than it is now. And anything that she could go to make it better, more power to her. But here's the other thing about her. If she finds a way to do exactly that, okay, then this could open up more opportunities for women to become commissioners of a prospective conference as well. This could be groundbreaking as well. If she, not only that this situation is as bad as it gets. All right, Jacob. Go ahead.
Absolutely. But you guys have heard me say this on basic sport, on other sports exchanges and pundits before. We brought up Kim Ng and, the whole situation, proud and everything. This is kind of a reminder because Kim Ng had 30 years in baseball before she got that. She had started in 1990 with the White Sox. And then she got that job basically when the Marlins were down. So like you said, house money and stuff like that. She did well, but then they wanted to give her some quote unquote help. And if she left, good for her because she was already doing a good job. Why they need to give her help? This is what this already feels like. They're going to give her 2 teams. It's up to her to go get something. If she does well, are they going to give her quote unquote help like they did Kim Ng? And is she going to go somewhere else? That's the big thing with something like this. You're giving her an almost impossible situation. Can she make it possible? That's the good question with it. And like 2 teams left. Here's the deal. Could it be the Pac-8? Could she go get some other teams to make it a Pac-8? You can't make it 6. You really can't because you need the conferences. But could you make it a Pac-8 like it used to be the Big 8 way back in the day? That's her job to do right now. And there will be some lesser teams. There's no question. Right. But you know something? She has nothing to lose. Just see what's going on. Let's see how she does. Will they do the same to her that they did to Kim Ng, though? Well,
here's the thing. That's a great point. It used to be the Pac-10 many years ago anyway. So if you have the Pac-8 or Pac-10, so what? It'll be where it once was, just to salvage something. So you're on a couple of good points. George, finish it off.
Yeah, and I'm very excited for her. She's got a good knowledge of college athletics. They say she's really been committed to, the student athlete model. And she's got an opportunity, but the problem is like you guys said, obviously we don't have enough schools in the Pac-12. She's got a good background, though. Like I said, she joined the Pac-12. I think back in 2018, they said she was overseeing the league's championship events as well as compliance and governance and operations, those kinds of things. So she's got a solid background. I'm glad, that they broke a barrier here for a major conference hiring her. I wish her well. She's going to have her work cut out, as you guys have already explained. George Klevoff did not do a good enough job. He did not get that big television contract, which is something that for a Power 5 conference you really had to do. And unfortunately, the whole roof fell in, so to speak, as one by one these teams were peeling out of the Pac-12 and joining the likes of the Big 10, ACC, and the Big 12. So I tell you what, she does have a lot of work to do, but this is an opportunity for her, and I look at it as a chance to be like a trendsetter. This is something that we've never seen before as far as a Power 5 commissioner for female. So I'm looking forward to seeing what she can do, but it is tough. I mean, obviously you lost, most of your teams here, so we'll see what happens, but I do wish her the best of luck.
Hey, George, that's cute that you still call them Power 5. That's
Thank you.
How about 2.5?
Yeah. You know what, Travis? You just get in that mindset where you're used to saying it. They say autonomy 5 conference. I've never heard that term before until now. Power 5. Travis, you have to understand. Sometimes we're just creatures of habit, is what we are. Like when I was over at USF over the weekend watching FAU against USF. They call it some Yingling Center. I don't know. I guess they call it a beer. For me, it'll always be the Sundome. So I'm not going to go there, but that's just how it is. Yingling. You ever heard of Yingling before?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that shows you where I'm at. Okay. So like it's just like, me, Yingling. Okay. And all these other things. I don't know. I didn't know that Reddit thing either. Everybody's laughing at me because I don't know this. I mean, come on. Hey, let me tell you, not to get off the subject too much here. But Mark Harmon, my wife has really got me addicted to this NCIS show. And, Mark Harmon and I were kind of like old school. You know what he asked on the air one time? What is a hashtag?
Wow.
And sometimes I will think to myself, what is a hashtag? I didn't know what these things were until I started doing all this podcasting business.
Scott, it's tic-tac-toe. Just think of it that way.
Yeah, right. Well, that's what it is. I like that. That's a good one. Hashtag
Hey man, I don't pass judgment on anybody, man. You guys, I mean, you may not know what a hashtag is. Meanwhile, these new kids don't know what a floppy disk or a rotary phone is, man. I don't pass
No
judgment.
kidding. That's a great point. That's a great line. You'll have to save that one for our other colleagues on the other show. But none of us would even know what a hashtag is. I'll tell you, when you talk about inside the pigskin, though, and this, and JB Ellis isn't with us tonight, but Travis Holmes is always there when we need him. These two shows are so different, aren't they, Travis? When you got Mel, you got Coach Bono, and you got Bo on there, and of course yours truly. So we just have totally different crews. We really, really do. But that's what makes it all so fun when you get to interact with more and more people. But a hashtag, seriously, I didn't know what half this stuff was until I got into this new media stuff. So speaking of which, okay, I want to just make sure we go over the other things I probably forgot because we're on such an incredible roll. I just want to reiterate that we do broadcast live on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and YouTube, and of course our website, www.southfloridatribune.com. If you want to follow us on Twitter, X at Tribune South, Candy Emling behind the scenes producing. And as you see in the top right part of our screen, my book, Lessons from the Microphone, Tuning into the Enduring Wisdom of Visionary Leaders, Old School Media versus New School Media, available on Kindle and Amazon. And if you want to read it, it's on the ticker at the bottom. All right. Final topic of the night. The Minnesota Vikings are unwilling to give Kirk Cousins a fully guaranteed contract. So let's find out from everybody where a good landing spot is. We'll start off with George this time.
Well, I'm a little bit disappointed. I mean, if the Vikings are going to play hardball like this, they're going to lose a good guy. Of course, I had the privilege of watching Kirk play, for the MSU Spartans and Mark D'Antonio. He did a great job. Kirk has been a really good leader. I know he's not in the upper echelon in many people's eyes, obviously, of the Mahomes and formerly Tom Brady. But I don't know. You talk about a landing spot. I'm sure there's a lot of good teams out there, but I still would like to see them work something out with him to keep him there in Minnesota. I mean, but you did see obviously what happened with Green Bay, and a lot of people didn't expect that to happen. Love had a really solid year and led them to a wild card playoff. And I think that given some extra tools and if Kirk is 100% healthy, I mean, he's a good leader. I mean, there's any number of teams that might want to take a chance on him. I haven't really digested how many of them are looking to for a new quarterback. Obviously, you got the division rival Chicago, but that wouldn't happen. They wouldn't trade. They wouldn't swap quarterbacks. I know that's not going to happen, but I don't know. I just, I haven't given it too much thought, Scott, but I would think that Minnesota would be smart enough to try to work something out. If they can't, there's any number of teams that would be interested in taking a look at him because he is a great person, a great leader, and surrounded by the right cast. I still think he can lead a team to the Super Bowl. Maybe I'm dreaming, maybe I'm daydreaming. I don't know, but I like Cousins and be interested to see what you guys have to say about where you think he might land.
Well, since you don't know, you're not getting another turn to contribute. So this is your moment in the sun to either take a shot at it or hold your peace for another show. So
Okay.
I know one guy who probably does know in his mind is old Travis, right?
Well, I mean, I'm probably going with someone like the Commanders, someone who has a boatload of cap space, and they absolutely have a need for a top quarterback. Now, again, to your point earlier, whether or not he's going to be healthy, that is obviously important for the coming season. But again, that Commanders team is also kind of hit and miss, whether or not, depending on who you ask, whether or not they're in a position to realistically compete next year in either case. So that could be a situation where you sign Cousins, you bring in another guy just to have, a bridge, or in case he's not 100% or whatever it may be. And you also have the Patriots, who also have that kind of cap space. But I personally think that they're going to get something done. It may not be a fully guaranteed contract. It just may be something where it's mostly guaranteed with have some kind of incentive. it just feels like he want to stay where he's built up the majority. I mean, the man has 200 plus million, was it $240 million that he's made throughout his career, and most of that from Minnesota. I would hope he could take a small haircut just to stay in Minnesota. To me, it makes way more sense than uprooting everything, kind of doing it again somewhere else.
Okay, what about you, Jacob?
George, don't kill my dreams. Chicago, Chicago.
I knew he was gonna say it.
That kind of town. No, I want Cousins, no question. But see, I absolutely going to have this daydream. I want Cousins there in Chicago because I want a lower draft pick to be able to develop for once in our lives. Not saying he's going to win any Super Bowls, but just build towards something for once. But here's the thing, Travis. If you ask him to take a small haircut, they'll chop his head off. This is the way that these owners do it. These are front offices do it to athletes. We hate that these athletes get so much. People talk about it, but if you ask them to not to get to take a little haircut or take this little thing, they get chopped. There's as I said, you ask them, okay, I'll take a little bit of a cut. They get an amputation. You can't trust anybody, and so I understand where he's at. But if there's anything, if there's any place, if it's not Chicago, and I'm dreaming of Denver, Denver. I mean, they've got that mile high air would be beautiful for him. He'd probably get 5,000 yards.
I mean, but Kirk Cousins is literally the legend at the bank. Like, he is not like for quarterbacks, he is the legend at the bank. Like, he is the guy who was never taking that hometown discount. He's the guy who set the stage. He prepared the table for all quarterbacks on these fully guaranteed contracts.
Yeah.
So he's probably not that guy that's going to take that hometown discount, but a brother can dream.
Yeah.
Well, think about it. The guy played on 2 franchise tags and got Minnesota to give him a couple guaranteed contracts. He's smarter than anybody out there. I can tell you what he's not. He's not Latrell Sprewell. Where he can't have enough money to feed my family. He's got plenty of money to feed his family, that's for sure. But the 2 places I would actually consider looking at him would be, number one, I've already mentioned the Commanders. I think that would be a possibility. But the wild card here is Atlanta. It really, really is. I mean,
Fields needs to go there.
Have a new coach there. Hold on, Jacob. Okay. Otherwise, my father-in-law said that there's that thing called duct tape. I'll have to make sure we send it through the computer and give it to you once in a while. I don't know how to do that. If I ever do that, I could patent a thing like that. I'm going to Hawaii and taking my other half. She can go out there and work at a Hawaii bank for all I care. But and by the way, Maui's not a bad place for Kauai if you can get to it. But no, seriously, Atlanta would be under Raheem Morris. They need a quarterback there anyways. That would be a good fit. And I like the Commanders this time around. You have a new Dan Quinn. So either of those 2 I could see. Denver would be an interesting match with the altitude and the air out there. He could air it out and do it effortlessly. That's for sure. It's all right. Well, you know what we're going to do? We're going to go to parting shots. All right, Travis, lead off. Or actually, I'm going to lead off because I'm afraid of Jacob. Okay. I am afraid of Jacob. My parting shot is something that he kind of got a little shot in, so I'm going to get in there first. 3 days ago, Larry Bird said that he wants players to play hard in the All-Star game in Indianapolis. Evidently, they didn't get the message, and the players didn't play defense. So let me add to that thought a little bit. You're hearing it from a guy that joined the league with Magic Johnson, and the NBA was on tape delay. Okay. Do you think that he wants to see the NBA go down? Now, will it get on tape delay? I don't think that'll ever happen. But I'll tell you one thing, the NBA is slowly hitting new lows with some of the things that are happening here. The play-in tournament, I acclimated to that a bit. I didn't like the in-season tournament. I think that was an absolute gaffe. And now this all-star game and load management. I've never seen a league that was so high, start to develop lows, especially as they approach trying to get another television contract. So Larry Bird, Magic Johnson fixed it, and these guys are doing an incredible job here running it. All right, Travis, go ahead.
Oh yeah, well, my parting shot was for anyone who hasn't seen Charlie Baker, the NCAA president, had an interview with ESPN yesterday, where they were just basically discussing everything under the sun about the different rules or the different laws that are currently in committee within Congress and how that may impact the NCAA coming down the line, things of that nature. At the core of it, all of it, he was basically just saying like they're hoping to get something done this year, maybe if not, maybe next year, within Congress, because at the way that everything currently is set up, is there's not a real sustainable path forward with all the legal challenges that college athletes are posing across the nation, state by state, uh, with transfer process, with whether or not they're employees versus with the NIL process, et cetera. It's all a mess, and it's all been a mess because of those original this basically started through lawsuits, through litigation. And anyone who's ever seen how the government works, or how the legal system works, they'll tell you what's right and wrong, and they don't tell you how to do it after the fact. You have to figure that out. And that's sort of why our NIL process is sort of a mess right now. So I thought it was a really interesting interview for anyone who hasn't seen it. I feel like that would be a great conversation for another podcast. But at the core of it is there's a lot of laws that are currently like pending in Congress or in committee, and they could have some really significant impacts on the NCAA moving down the line for those other sports outside of football.
Very well done. Okay, Jacob.
Something tells me with the whole Larry Bird thing that they're setting him up for the future to be like an ambassador for the league and for product. Because when you listen to like I listened to an interview with him, Isaiah Thomas, and Reggie Miller. I saw it yesterday, actually. It's a really good interview, about 48 minutes long. It's on YouTube. And when you listen to him, Larry is always the one guy who says the league is in good hands with the players. He's the one guy who loves the product. Now, I don't know, and you can't say he's not telling the truth because he's always been as boldly honest as it gets. So I could see Larry being that guy who would like something like that because he was back in a league where, remember all of those passes he threw when nobody did that. He would understand the kind of players that you'd see now, both the men and the women, better than anybody. The changes in the league, the amazing players, the big offensive plays. He was that. So it would not shock me because every other legend we hear has to give us their thing of what they think is wrong. He's always telling everybody what's right. Are they building him up for something big? And mind you, he doesn't have to stay in Indiana because he doesn't want to leave. But are they trying to set him up for something bigger later? They already got the Larry Bird Award for the Eastern Conference. Are they trying to for the rest of his life? Because he's the one who builds this product up better than anybody else as a legend. Jason Tatum met him for the first time at All-Star Weekend, loved it, and had chills. So everybody that would meet him, they love him because he doesn't bag their product. Do I bag the product? Yes, I do. But they're the ones that have to play in it. So to have him around in it might improve it.
Well, let me tell you, if you've ever met Larry Bird, and I had the good fortune of meeting him, especially one time when I talked to him after he was done with the beat writers, and he always taught me to think 3 steps ahead of the other people. That's how he was good. Let me tell you, he's one of the nicest people on the planet. He's a level-headed superstar that's nothing but good for the NBA. And if they can do anything to expand him in a role to do what he's got to do, you do that. And you know what? Think about it for this way, though. I really don't like the job that Adam Silver's done. I've never been a big Adam Silver person at all. I really never have. I've always liked David Stern. But I will tell you this much about Silver, though. He did elevate Joe Dumars to handle disciplinary matters, okay, when it comes to cracking down on things that don't need to be done, whether it's flagrant fouls, suspensions, or whatever it may be. And Joe Dumars is the right guy to police a lot of that. I agree, Jacob. Maybe he will be an ambassador of some kind. You need a smart person that knows what you have to do. And I think he's one of the most intelligent individuals on the planet. And it showed with his play on the court. again, not the greatest athlete. And I told him, I know you weren't obviously the greatest athlete to play, but boy, you outsmart people. And he was very polite about it. So yeah, I was thinking 3 steps ahead. That's a potent combination when you can outthink people. You got to treat life like a chess game, 3 steps ahead, right? Why do you think they have a 3-move checkmate, right? Because it's designed to three steps ahead. It's all interconnected. So Jacob, you're on point. But Larry Bird, if they gave him an expanded role, I don't know. If I understand, I think he has a place in Naples, Florida, too. Who knows? But then again, once upon a time, Bud Selig had an office in Milwaukee and he worked in New York, so he was able to go both places. But the NBA would be better to have Larry Bird involved any way that it possibly can.
Mhm.
Good point. Okay, and we'll finish it off with George.
Well, I'm going to switch gears a little bit here. It's been announced that one guy who I've admired for many, many years, Vern Lundquist, will be retiring after he calls the Masters in April for the final time. CBS has been using him on golf for decades now, and he's not the main guy. Of course, Jim Nantz is the main guy at the Masters and with PGA Golf. But hats off to you, legendary broadcaster. Vern Lundquist has covered many, many great games over the years, especially college and pro football, and of course, golf events such as the Masters and such. Um, 83 years old, you've done it all, Vern. It's a great career. You'll be hanging it up, but we're never going to forget that golden throat, that great voice of yours. It's going to be missing on the sports scene, just like we've had to say goodbye to Don Criqui and Brent Musburger and many other of my heroes growing up. So wish you the best, Vern. Have a great Masters. I'm sure you will. We'll be watching and listening as you conclude your fantastic broadcast career.
Well done. I like that. Very good.
Thank you.
Yeah, Vern Lundquist is one of those guys, is a transcending figure that has been around for so long. He's covered so many big events. And, when a guy like him can leave on his own terms, even in his 80s, and still be at the top of his game, more power to him. Every broadcaster needs a good send off if you can get it. And I'm glad that Vern is definitely going to get his like anybody else. All right.
Yeah.
So with that said, we're going to let everybody know how they get hold of you. And okay, we'll let Jacob go ahead and lead off.
Jake the Pundit on Twitter or X, Jake the Pundit 1 on TikTok, Jake the Pundit on Reddit now. I just got on 5 shows a week, 4 shows a week, and the 5th off the bench, and amongst some things. And I'm also writing a little more right now on the South Florida Tribune, and Inscriber Magazine.
Right. And you connected me with the guy with Inscriber Magazine. It was Robert Cobb, I think, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I had an opportunity to speak to him, and he's really incredible. Candy, why don't you come on screen really quickly? And I want you to promote your girls' shows. I know we have a few minutes that we can do it. So go ahead and come on, because I'll tell you what Candy does outside of here is just truly remarkable. So go ahead, Candy. You have time to let everybody know how they can find you.
So the girls' show is Chicks and Salsa, or 3 Chicks in a Pod, normally Tuesday night, 7:30. You can catch me tomorrow night on Fire Up with George and Jeremy, and with Jeremy and I on Sunday morning, Fire Up, South Florida Tribune.
Very good. Well, Candy gets involved. She does it all. Handles the website, produces, does broadcasting. She's all over the map. Okay, Travis, go ahead.
You can find me on all the socials, Travis D. Holmes. You can find my writings covering the Jacksonville Jaguars at bigcatcountry.com. And for the most part, we're entering the off season now. So when we're in season, you can also find my podcast, the Do All Die by Jaguars podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. You can also find me either here on the Sports Exchange on Wednesdays or on Tuesdays inside the Pigskin every Tuesday, 8:30, wherever you get your podcast. Thanks for having me.
Well, you're welcome. Like I told you, you know what, Travis? You fit in very nicely on both shows. You really, really have. And when I find people that are talented, I like to spread them around a little bit so that people can really see their true given ability. And I'm telling you something, you have done an unbelievable job. I am so proud of you, Travis. Keep up the good work and keep improving. Okay.
Hey, thank you. Appreciate it.
Well, you're welcome. All right, George Eichhorn, go ahead. I'm not the only author here. You are. Other
Yeah,
author.
my book is about Detroit and Michigan sportscasters, and Scott's in that book as well. It's Detroit Sports Broadcaster on the Air. There are ways to purchase it, but just the easiest way is go to read my column in the South Florida Tribune under the Motor City Tribune, and at the end of the column, Scott and Candy put a little link there for you to take a look at my book. You can reach me at gicorn@yahoo.com and also on LinkedIn. And Twitter, I go by the handle SandGSports99. Follow me on any number of these great shows: Fire Up, Sports Exchange, Pundit, 108 Stitches. Great network we've established here. And along with Sideline Sports, the South Florida Tribune is on the map. And again, I wrote the foreword for Scott's great book. You know, it's just a wonderful book. You got to get it and learn a lot about old school versus new school media. And Scott did a terrific job with his book. So thank you.
Well, thank you for mentioning it. You and I, we began at ABC Radio. Now, it's when you think of where we got started versus where we're at, now the changes in the industry, it just blows me away. Who would have ever thought we'd ever hear back in 1979 the word streaming? Really?
Right.
All we remember back then is wire services, tickers, what else? AP, UPI, typewriters. Yes. Well, we got those too. There you go.
Yeah.
Look at this guy. Look at a good day. There you go. It's a good day when you go out there and do that. All right. But no, that's how far we've really come. NBA is dying, I guess. AJ Rivera, new to the party. Doesn't look very good, that's for sure. Thanks for joining us, AJ. But good job by our crew. I'm sure JB Ellis will be coming back in the not so distant future. But one thing we enjoy doing is bringing you the Sports Exchange on Wednesday night, week in and week out. Tomorrow's lineup, just so you know, will begin with Pundit's Pundit. We start that show, right, Jacob, at 8 o'clock.
Yep.
And then that will be our lead into Fire Up. So
Yep.
your crew tomorrow night for Pundit's Pundit, myself, Jacob, George, and Denzel. So we try to come up with some sports and non-sports related. So stay tuned. Hope you can join us. And of course, Fire Up. Keep it real. So Candy Ebeling does a good job hosting some of the shows, and we hope that you can get your maximum entertainment value out of everything that we work to put together. With that said, on behalf of Candy Ebeling, okay, she's part of us, Jacob Christner, Travis Holmes, George Eichhorn, this is Scott Morgan, Rock the Motor City Madmouth. Thank you for joining us on this edition of the Sports Exchange. And once again, please join us tomorrow at 8 o'clock Eastern Time for Pundit's Pundit. Good night, everybody.